Hello, everyone. We are so grateful for your presence here. We are so delighted for all the questions and all the comments that you are sending us from all over the world. So we are happy to help you in any way possible to live a life of significance and success. And for that reason, we are so delighted to have you here. I am Virginia Prodan, your host. And for those who are new to this podcast, I am a speaker, author, and international human rights attorney. To know me better and to understand many of the things that we are discussing in this podcast, I will advise you to read my memoir, Saving My Assassin. It was published by Tyndale House Publisher and talks about my life under communists and here in freedom in America. Today, we have a very, very special guest that will help you in many ways. And our guest is Les Bernal. He is the National Director of Stop Predatory Gambling. And I hope that you are interested in this subject because several of you expressed this interest. So what I advise you is make sure your place is quiet. You take pen and pencil and you are listening to Les and you take notes and you will for sure you will be enriched by his participation. So Les, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Sure. So again, my name is Les Bernal, and I'm the National Director for Stop Predatory Gambling. We're a national 501c3 nonprofit we're in all 50 states, and our mission is to advocate to reform our nation's gambling laws and to also educate the American public about how the nation's gambling laws and this experiment that we've had with commercialized gambling has been what we believe is one of the biggest public policy failures in the last 50 years in American history. And whether you gamble or not, it's affected your life. So we think predatory gambling is America's most neglected major problem. And I think in the course of our conversation today, hopefully your listeners will understand why we're so passionate about this fight and that they'll join us in it.
That is great. Would you share with us how you started? What prompted you to do this?
Yeah, so Virginia, I was in a totally different walk of life. My goal was really to become a city manager. I have a master's degree in public administration, and I was a high school and college men's basketball coach for many years. And so I happened to just stumble on this issue. There was a short period in my career in the early 2000s when I worked as a chief of staff in the Massachusetts Senate, and I happened to work for a state senator there who was opposed to casinos coming into Massachusetts. And, I had never thought about the issue before. I knew nothing about it. But, as being our chief of staff, like this became, one of our issues because it was such a huge issue in the state. And she was the leader of it. And it was one of these issues where the more I learned about it, the more I said, I can't believe we do this. And so to me, it reflects, and this is really the truth. This is not an overstatement. Like, we believe this is America's most neglected major problem. And I also think if the public understood how much commercialized gambling has just permeated American culture, that, and how it's changed us, profoundly, that, this is exhibit A in what's broken about America today. And so it became a calling for me. And I saw about almost 16 years ago now, my kids were 4 and 1 when I left. I left another career and helped join a growing movement in our country that we frame as the movement to stop predatory gambling, is to stop state governments from partnering with these powerful corporate gambling interests to promote extreme forms of gambling that manipulate and exploit our neighbors.
You are a great example. Our podcast is called Courageous Leadership, and we love to give example of courageous leaders. To be a courageous leader, like you express, and I want to emphasize what you said, is to see the need to change something in our society and step into that role, knowing that is your mission, that is your calling, and doing what the Lord put on your heart. And it takes courage because you have to fight, like you said, against strong companies.
Yeah.
But when you are,
And our government too. I mean, it's both.
yes,
It's corporations in partnership with political officials from both political parties, Republicans and Democrats.
yeah, and here you are, um, almost in confronting an impossible mission. But that's the essence.
Mm,
God always calls us to do impossible missions because we're not doing in our power, we're doing in God's power, and people will recognize that it was God that worked in us, and it's God who is working in us. And
yeah.
for that reason, you are a very good example. And I
Thank you.
want to take um, this opportunity um, and ask you, how do you encourage people that might be a different age, maybe young fathers like you were many years ago when you started, or different age, that they might be able to see what is wrong and what needs to be changed, but they don't have the courage to say, I will be the one God will use me to change this in our society. How do you encourage them?
Sure. So a few ways, but and that's a very powerful question. And so a lot of times I'll just share from my own personal experience. Like I was raised Catholic, but I always tell a story. Like I was raised Catholic, but my mom would take us to church, but you know, I really didn't get it. Like I was just we go to CCD after school, and was really a place to hang out with my friends. I didn't really understand what it meant to put your faith into practice, but it's really in the course of this work over the last 16 years where I really get it deep into my bones. And I think one of the ways that I frame it to people is that we when you stand up to do what's right in society, no matter what it is, that God gives you the strength to fight your battles. If you try to do the right thing, no matter what it is, in all aspects of your life, like it's certainly hard. And as my priest likes to say, like we can't avoid our passion, right? We want to love Jesus, but we don't want the passion that he had to go through, right? But the reality is, we're meant to live selflessly in this country and in our world, and to put God's love into practice. And to do that, it involves things that are very hard to do. And so, to me, it's become, when you stand up to do what's right, God gives you that strength. And one other last thing I say is, it relates not so much from a faith perspective, but it really relates from a democratic, a small d democratic standpoint. Is this, as I say, when I'm traveling around the country, I'll put up a slide at the end of my talk, and I'll say, you know, I have something in common with, I'll put Queen Elizabeth up, or King Charles, or, Prince William, and all these folks. I put them up on a screen, and then I'll have my photograph next to it. And I say, I have something in common with these folks, is that I have royal blood just like they do. But my royal blood is different. I live in a country where we don't have kings or queens. I or princes, or princesses. I live in a country where all blood is royal. And when I'm a part ruler of right now, when I'm a part ruler of in our nation, collectively here, it's broken, and it's up to me to fix it. So what I'm doing every day, and I encourage people to do, is go exercise your royal blood and help fix what's broken about our society. So for me, so one, both on a faith level, but also from a democratic standpoint, is that's what makes our country unique. Is we have to be. It's about citizenship. And I look, I should have said this at the beginning. One of the cool things about our work is that our movement to stop predatory gambling, we attract support both from the political right and the political left. We're one of the few, really, I would say, the strongest movement in the country that pulls from all political stripes. And it really, it's because it attracts people of high character, regardless of where they come from for society. So it's very inspiring. And it's just, I think I get inspiration from meeting people like you, and I had a chance to talk with you and others. you know that's what it's about. It's just really, it's getting inspiration from other people, but trying to put God's love into practice every day.
That is so true, and one that's you are a role model for others, and we can be a role model in a positive or negative way. by standing up for the truth, and others will be inspired, or being silent and being fearful of government or corporation, and inspiring fear in others too. But living your faith is the essence of everything that you are doing, and I believe that is something that people have to understand. We have a higher blood that the royalties in, earthly royalties here in, you know all over the world, no matter the rank and everything. But many times we are acting like orphans, and we have to look at our actions. We have to look at how we live our faith. And God is a God of um, giving opportunities after opportunities, forgives us and gives opportunities. So no matter, maybe you are at a point where you said, oh, I didn't do very well. I don't know if God accepts me now to do it. Well, the good news is that you can have another opportunity with God, and God can provide everything for you.
Yeah.
And if He
If
places,
I may just add something to that, like this, I'll be honest, like this is a really, the fight that we're in is a really hard fight because, not only do we have these powerful corporate gambling interests, but also, very powerful public officials of both parties, opposed to us. So it can be very hard. So I'd be less than honest if I didn't say there's definitely, you know, many times in this work that you're like, God, this is, it'd be so much better if I could just do something else for a bit. Like we just kind of question the path that you're on. But thankfully, those thoughts are fleeting. You know what I mean? They go away over time. But one of the things I've learned, from money, we pull from, what part of our big part of our base in this fight are faith folks, and there was an older woman that used to tell me this all the time, that and now I've internalized it, and I repeat it to others. It says, God doesn't call us to win. He doesn't expect us to win. He calls on us to be faithful.
yes,
And there's a difference because I come from a sports background. I used to run campaigns. Like I love to win as much as anybody. So like
mhm,
just try
yes,
to subvert that desire to win and suppress it, and realize this is about competing hard every day. You're gonna, and then, obviously we're trying to win, but sometimes it can eat at you. You know what I mean? But I've had to really judge it. Am I putting it into practice more than, and not judge it by wins and losses, but judge it as how well am I doing in putting my faith into practice?
you are right about the fact that God doesn't call us to win. First of all, He won the battle. We walk in
That's
His
true. Yeah.
victory, but in the same time, winning in God's eyes is totally different than winning the way we see it. If you
Yeah.
look at Jeremiah, if you look at many other prophets, you will not consider them winners. And in God's eyes, they have done an amazing job.
It's true.
So it's true. And also, you write about when you work for the Lord, there will come times of doubts, of things that maybe you should do less, or maybe you should do something else, and so forth. And I know I feel that for you, because when I was in Romania under persecution and house arrest and everything, those thoughts came to me. But God is always by our side, encouraging us. Now when I speak about socialists and how socialists can establish in America, when many people don't see the signs, and I share with them, I had many times when my internet was cut off, and several other things, I won't say it anymore. But that's something that comes with serving the Lord. The evil one is not happy, and he will try to discourage you.
Yeah. Well, I'll just tell you a quick story. So, I was, when you're Catholic, you have confession, right? So, I went to confession probably a few years. I mean, try to go with some frequency, but it was 2 or 3 years ago. I went, and I had a really tough stretch. Like we were just, everything was kind of just coming at us in different directions and not really all good at the moment. And so I remember going to confession. I was like, I didn't have any big things to share, in terms of sins or whatever. But I told him, like, what's eating at me is like, I'm not living up to what God wants me to do here. Like I'm just getting crushed on this stuff. And the priest just goes to me, listen, God's, you got to put all that stuff aside. But what God really wants you to do, what this is all about, is is to live a life to get into heaven and take other people with you. And that was a good. It's just the way he said it. It's always something that left a print on me, and I remind myself when I have a couple tough days. It's about trying to live a life that gets you into heaven and take other people with you. And it kind of
Absolutely.
gives me a little. It helps me. Again, it gets me right back on track.
Yeah, that is perfect. In fact, we are not taking the house, we are not taking the diploma, we are not taking the name that we are CEO or whatever,
That's
founder
right.
or something and so forth. But we take what we have done for Christ, our deeds, and in this, the influence that we have on other people's life. And the best that you can do is to guide them to Christ, to accept them as their
That's right.
Lord and Savior. So
That's right. That's
tell
right.
us one situation where you had so much trouble, so much pressure from the entire the companies, government, different side, and how you discover to go on and still work on what God gave you.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of those moments. I guess I'll give one, and actually was just discussing this earlier today on a different conference call. I mean, to me, one of the lowest moments that I had was we there was a major, because in building a movement that we do, the most successful social movements in American history, they all have four pillars to them: education, direct action, slash demonstration,
Hmm.
legislation, and and litigation. Like those are the kind of the four pillars. And so to me, of those four on this fight, like litigation is going to be a big way to bring reform. And so so they had never, no real progress on this. So back in like 2015, 2016, there was an incredible woman who's a widow out of Ohio, whose husband had committed suicide because he got addicted to slot machines. And this was like, if you think of the kind of guy like you want your daughter to marry, like this was that kind of guy. Like he was a leader in the community, a great person, helped people, kind, motivated, like ideal person. But he got introduced to slot machines when he went out to a work conference in Las Vegas, and then when he came back to where he lived in Ohio, he's like he didn't realize that, oh look, these same machines are like 30 minutes from my house in West Virginia. So he started going down after work to these to this casino in West Virginia, and he ended up losing like $7 million. Okay, he was major CFO of a major company in Western Pennsylvania. He got addicted to this product, and he ended up like stole money from a company that he loved working for, and they treated him like a son. And then ultimately, he ended up taking his own life because he was, in his own words, he said, "I'm worth more dead than alive." And so he committed suicide. He had maybe I think three kids, beautiful kids, and I just never forgot that case. So, and the thing is, when you're a CFO, like he was an accountant by nature, so he had kept incredible records of all his losses, financial losses. And so we put together like this incredible legal team, really good, like top flight lawyers to bring litigation in federal court, in West Virginia federal court, on behalf of the widow suing the casino, because there's never been a case. Like none of these cases have ever been a trial in the United States. And so bring it to federal court, and the federal court judges, like before they took any action on it, they're like, hey, because the casino files a motion to dismiss, and the federal judge is like, listen, well, before I can rule on this, I need to decide like, what's legal in West Virginia, like what duty of care do the casinos have to their customers in West Virginia to take care of them, to protect them. And so he remanded it to the state Supreme Court of West Virginia, which is a statewide elected body in a state where more than 10% of the government revenue comes in from gambling interests. So they're arguably like if not the most powerful special interest in the state, they're certainly in the top two or three. And they ended up ruling unanimously that, hey, essentially this is what the opinion said. When I read it, like I read like a lobbying talking point from the casino lobby. It didn't read like a legal opinion. Essentially, they said, well, the legislature in West Virginia took into account all these issues, about the harm that predatory gambling causes, and you know there is no duty of care. Unlike any other business, like any other business, you have a duty of care to your customer. But with casinos, it's different because they partner with the state, and the state essentially said all of this is legal. And so they dismissed the case. It never even got to a trial. And so I was like, we had everything had lined up. We had funding for the case. Like, so it took me like that was I was like it was like a total punch to the stomach for a while. And so how did I respond? Honestly, like I wouldn't say like I responded like I was able to flick a switch. It took a long time for me to work through that. And it just started, again, turn back to my faith. Said, God, you have me on this path. I'm going to trust you that there's a plan behind all this, and just got back to competing every day. And so now like there's actually some active litigation. We've kind of come back. There's some really good attorneys out there, some good litigation that's happening on this, but it's taken us about, a few years to kind of build that movement back up again. But now we have real momentum on that front.
Oh, thank you for sharing this story. I got from this story at least few things. One is if you look at gambling and every addiction, it starts with a little and goes on the slippery slope, and you do things that like this person never thought they would be doing in his life.
Yeah. He's a good
And
man that just got destroyed by it.
exactly. And also, well, he was not the only one destroyed. His family was
That's right.
destroyed too.
Yeah, that's
But
right.
on the positive side is this: you did your mission. And as God is always doing, when we are doing our mission, God provides others with skills and talents, like lawyers that came aside of you and try to do what is best. It did not work in the beginning, but as more and more other lawyers came and the gambling affected more families and more people died or they were destroyed, more lawyers came. So I want to
Sure.
encourage our audience that if you think of, playing with an addiction, first of all, is realize that you need to stop. For those who are thinking, I want to be involved, but it's so much, whatever area they want to be involved, I want to say it from my own experience, and like you explained, Les, God will provide people with skills and talents that will help you in an area where He didn't call you. To help, He will bring a community of Christian that will help you to do your mission. And I just want to thank you so very much for sharing this story, because I believe it's so powerful and it's also humbling. You are not promoting yourself, you are promoting the mission that God is giving you and showing the grace of God and how He provided for you. And I'm so grateful for you for
Thank
sharing
you.
that.
Thank you. I will just say a little quick story because I have a great Catholic pastor at my church here in where I live in. And I live in Eastern Massachusetts, and early on, this is probably like in 2008, 2009, and like I just started out. We were going through the Great Recession, and I just left a career. My kids were tiny, and I'm like, how am I gonna? I took a huge pay cut to do this work, and I'm like, I used to wear like, how am I going to pay for my kids to go to college when that time comes? Because like I knew in my old life I had been putting away money, for college, but like now I couldn't afford to put away money anymore. And he had a homily once, again years ago when I was starting out. He's like, God always keeps His promises. That's what he said. Like, and I just like, so I try to remind myself when I feel like I was going like, God always keeps His promises. I was trying to remind myself of that. And so honestly, like my kids are older now, and the way things work, the stock market was good enough. So even though I didn't put enough in, like I was able to get just enough to cover them through college. So like it was true. It was, obviously my own experience. Like when I look back, like it looked like there was no way I was ever going to, I didn't want to put my kids at risk because of the work I was doing. That's what weighed on me the most, is that I didn't want to have them suffer because of the choices that I made to do this work and to try to live this. And so I was really trying, that was just a personal pressure that I put on myself. And again, and it worked out. And I really, it's all because of, I'm thankful for God. It really was because of Him it happened. So
Oh, that is wonderful. I hope that encourages many people, especially if they are young dads, young moms, and they're
yeah, that's
thinking
right.
and asking questions like you.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you one question. Where can our audience find you? Can you share the website?
Sure. So our website address is stoppredatorygambling.org. And I'm hopeful, within by early November, we should have a brand new website up too. So hopefully you'll visit us more than once. We're about to launch a brand new website that's going to be 1,000 times better than what we have a decent website now, but it's going to be much, much better than what we have. And I'm really excited about it. Yeah. So stopppredatorygambling.org.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so very much for sharing that. And thank you, Les, for coming here. And I hope people will go to your website and learn even more about
Yeah.
this.
Well, Virginia, I'm honored to be on. You're a very special person, and I just having a chance to visit with you the few times I have you just project this warmth and grace that you make the people around you better. So it's an honor to be on your show, and I appreciate the invitation.
Oh, thank you so very much. And it's an honor to answer to everybody's question, everybody's comment. And I hope that people will go and read Saving My Assassin. You can find it at virginiaprodanbooks.com. It's a wonderful story of God's story, what he can do in one person's life and how he can change a country. God changed Romania from a socialist country to a democratic country. And you are here in America because God wants to change America through you. So this book will encourage you to see how powerful God is and how important you are to God and to each one of us. And wherever you might be on this planet in different countries. So once again, we want to thank you so very much for your participation, Les, for everybody listening and being here on our podcast. And we hope to hear from you. We hope you go to Lee's website and support the ministry here and make voluntary contribution, financial contribution, whatever you think, and learn from what he has been doing, for what I have been doing, that God has a mission for each one of us. And just listen and be obedient. Your life will never be the same. God bless you, and we hope to hear from you soon. Bye-bye.